I get really flustered when I talk about it.
Before I answer some of Eminem's, I guess some of his talking points about being flustered, I want you to know right now that there will be a video in the description box from a channel called This Information. I won't put the thumbnail up there right now, but I'll definitely link it in the description box because we need to have a serious conversation. And I advise you guys not only watch my video all the way through like you guys normally do, but I'd also like you guys to check out that one because obviously these points were made a long time ago. And I'm just simply here to reiterate a good portion of the points in that video there and also to respond to this guy who has obviously been cucked by the establishment.
Talking about Trump, I get too flustered in my head.
You know, guys, I came across this small, tiny clip the other day, and you're probably going to sit here and think to yourself, oh my God, it's going to be a political video. Nope. I just want to explain why it is that Eminem doesn't get it. I also want to explain to you guys why it is that Eminem, for the most part, is just become another member of the establishment. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. Now, guys, I cannot play the entire clip for you because there's obviously music in the background, and I'll probably get a copyright claim. But I did pull the most relevant pieces out to actually respond to. But first, let's go ahead and give ourselves a bit of a preface to this video. Eminem, Slim Shady. Not Slim Shady anymore. He hasn't been the same for a long time, and obviously people do grow up, they do evolve, they develop opinions on their own. However, you would think that somebody with Eminem's background, the way he grew up, he would actually get it. Now, here's the thing. Eminem, he got famous in the late 90s. I remember this because, quite frankly, I was a teenager and I was going through my little Billy Badass stage at that point in time. So obviously someone like Eminem spoke to me. Even though I didn't listen to his music that long, I will still listen to some of his stuff from time to time. Mostly his old stuff, mostly stuff from the Marshall Matters LP. Then, of course, there was Sing for the Moment. There was actually some very good songs that came out there. And even though I've never really fully embraced Eminem or actually agree with all of his views because I, too, eventually grew up as well, I got to tell you, though, for somebody who's from Michigan, he obviously does not understand or obviously does not get the background of which he came from. That right there being the poor, white, trash, stereotypical white boy who eventually would learn to rap and eventually would go on to create a successful rap career. The same type of rap career that a lot of black rappers at that time did not like. I mean, the guy was actually targeted in a lot of songs. I mean, he was really not liked initially, but then after a while, he kind of took it over. Became almost like the greatest of all time when it came to rap. A white boy out there doing black man's music, all that type of stuff there. But then after a while, you realize that the guy just got old. And eventually he found himself into pop, which is still not bad, but still at the same time, though, when I hear Eminem talk like this, it makes me wonder, and of course he's been doing this for a while, it makes me wonder if he's forgotten where exactly it is that he came from. You see, guys, in the late 90s and early 2000s, Eminem was kind of a voice for rejected white kids who, quite frankly, anytime somebody made fun of them, they went out of their way to make themselves more and more unlikable. I mean, they were already hated by everybody else, so why not make them hate you more? They basically embraced the persona of Eminem. Whether it be the blonde hair, the way he talked, or whatever, he was viewed as a bit of an icon for those young men who especially did not like political correctness. I mean, I have no idea how many controversies popped up when it came to Eminem, whether it be the MTV Video Music Awards in 2001, where he did this nice, long little stretched out session with all those kids with the blonde hair and the white t-shirt while he's singing Slim Shady, all that type of stuff there. And after a while, you realize that the man obviously makes some points. He started rapping about real things. I mean, most black rappers at the time, especially Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, the Wu-Tang Clan, Old Dirty Bastard, RZA, you know those guys there, Puff Daddy even at one point in time, they all used to love to rap about gangsta life. Big screen TVs, blunts, 40s, women, all that type of stuff there. But Eminem came around and started rapping about things that, quite frankly, were a little bit more relatable. So when I hear Eminem run his suck about the former president, who, by the way, went out of his way to try to bring back those jobs to that area of the country that he came from. And by the way, this right here is not a pro-Trump piece. This right here is a video simply to explain to you guys why it was that Eminem is just straight up out of touch and just doesn't get it.
So sometimes I start talking and I'm not able to convey the message the right way because I just get flustered. And
that's one quick segment. You get flustered. I get it. You get flustered when it is that you talk about somebody it is that you don't like. Never mind the fact that Donald Trump actually endorsed him for president in 2004 in a bit of a comedy sketch. But still, at the same time, though, these men have obviously done business together. But it gets better.
And play to his base that thinks that he cares about them, and it's actually the people that he cares about the fucking.
You see, I played it again because, honestly, to tell you the truth, flustered. What kind of man gets flustered by a man who's not in front of him? What kind of man gets flustered by somebody on television? It's not uncommon for men who are like in, I don't know, their early teen years or late teen years and maybe their early 20s to get a little bit frustrated by what the hell is on television. I used to do it as a child. I'd watch wrestling and I'd see my favorite star get beaten or lose and scream, oh my God, injustice. I didn't really like that. Then, of course, when I became a teenager, when I began to wake up, began to actually, wake up to the world and started to get older, I realized it was a great big giant work. Same thing happened with sports. If my team lost, I would get upset. I'd get mad. And then as I got older, I realized that there were much, much worse things in life than watching your team lose. God knows I've seen a lot of heartbreaking losses when it comes to the Packers and the Braves, but holy crap, after a while, you just grow up, and after a while, you just don't let people fluster you and frustrate you. Of course, that wasn't until Obama, when he came around. But even after a couple of years, I realized that it was just a great big giant game. It was once again just another great big giant work. But then again, though, there was this one guy who came around that I really and truly don't like, who actually seemed to have gotten it, and he got it in Eminem's neck of the woods.
Donald Trump came to the Detroit Economic Club and stood there in front of the Ford Motor executives and said, if you close these factories as you're planning to do in Detroit and build them in Mexico, I'm going to put a 35% tariff on those cars when you send them back, and nobody's going to buy them. It was an amazing thing to see. No politician, Republican or Democrat, had ever said anything like that.
Now, guys, that was only roughly 35, maybe like 35 seconds of that. That's the old Trumpland speech that Michael Moore. By the way, I can't stand Michael Moore. He's a real seedy individual. But obviously, I've got to keep things kind of calm here. But the thing is this right here. Michael Moore is at least from that area, and he seemed to have understood why it was that people in that area of the country, that right there being the Rust Belt, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, which, by the way, is actually where he did that speech at, was Ohio, Indiana, southern, central, and even parts of northern Illinois, all the way out through Pennsylvania to western New York. He kind of understood why it was that people were frustrated. And the frustration always stems back to losing one's job. You see, at one point in time, that area of the nation was like the chief economic area of this nation. Cars, technology, all kinds of stuff was being built. Of course, at the end of the Reagan era, when Herbert Walker Bush came in, next thing you know, you started to see some changes in the economy. Then, of course, it changed more and more and more when Bill Clinton was in office. Next thing you know, NAFTA is signed. NAFTA, of course, was really the downfall of the entire Rust Belt. Next thing you know, Bush comes in and more jobs get shipped overseas. Of course, this was also Eminem's neighborhood. I'm pretty sure he applied for a few of those jobs when he was younger. Let's go work at Ford. Let's go work at General Motors. Let's go work at the Pontiac factory. That type of stuff there. Of course, a lot of these local factories got shut down under Clinton, Bush, Obama. Of course, it got worse. Trump came in and was able to get some of the factory jobs back, but of course, he didn't get 2 full terms. Of course, the jobs are more than likely not going to come back in 2 full terms, but you would figure that Eminem, already being out of base, especially with the younger base generation, the younger people who actually going to buy his CDs, his albums, his singles, you figure that them being so anti-politically correct like Eminem would be, that he would be able to empathize. He would be able to see their fervor. He would be anti-woke, which of course, Eminem doesn't really truly speak about that. He doesn't speak about the suppression of free speech. As many things as Eminem has said, as many controversies he's gotten into, especially when it comes to GLAAD, the Elton John incident, all that type of stuff there. Which, by the way, the Elton John thing was actually his way of, how do I say? It was his way of fixing the bridge that he may have burned to prove that he was not actually a homophobe, that he could actually get on stage and actually perform with a man that was gay. Of course, Eminem, being that anti-politically correct person, that right there may have been the first sign of his actual cuckoning, or the eventual cuckoning to come, because as you guys know, he eventually transitioned out of gangster rap, and now he's more pop. That's just who he is now. It's the way he's always been, or it's probably who he was initially. It doesn't take long for somebody to actually embrace what it is that they're about to become, especially if money is involved, roles, Hollywood roles. Everybody already thinks it's a great big giant club that quite frankly you're not in. But then it comes to the actual Midwest itself, and it actually comes to that little base that he talks about.
Majority white middle class. What I don't understand is how in the fuck do you feel like you relate to?
Now, I can understand why it is that people think that Donald Trump doesn't actually care about his base. But then again, that when you see rooms fill and crowds line up to go see this man, you got to think to yourself, maybe he does care to a certain extent. Maybe he really and truly does, especially given the nature of the actual voting base. You see, Eminem in this very, very next segment brings up the white middle class, where he brought up in that one here, but he brings it up again. Pay very close attention.
Who has never known struggle his entire fucking life. I will say this, he talks a good one.
Eminem, the white middle class that you're talking about doesn't exist anymore. It was the white middle class that lived in the suburbs. Eventually it lost its jobs, it lost its income. You know, those men, you know, they had to make child support payments, alimony, all that stuff. And now it's just the good old-fashioned white working class. You know, those people who don't make $250,000 a year, let alone the millions that Eminem makes. It's actually that group of people that Eminem came from, that actual sort that Eminem actually came from, that sort that he kind of rose out of, that level of poverty. But yet somehow or another, Eminem still doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. He never will. He doesn't understand that a lot of those people out there who you will see in the video that I'm going to leave in the description box, they were concerned about free speech. They were concerned about political correctness. You see, Eminem at one point in time used to be the person that we looked to for this sort of thing. He used to be that one artist, that one person that we could count on to stick it to the system, which is exactly what it is that we see in Trump. Pay very, very close attention to the next minute.
I'm talking about whether Trump means it or not is kind of irrelevant, because he's saying the things to people who are hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them. And on November 8th, Election Day, although they've lost their jobs, although they've been foreclosed on by the bank, next came the divorce, and now the wife and kids are gone, the car's been repoed, they haven't had a real vacation in years, they're stuck with the shitty Obamacare bronze plan where you can't even get a fucking Percocet. They've essentially lost everything they had, except one thing. The one thing that doesn't cost them a cent and is guaranteed to them by the American Constitution, the right to vote.
You see, all those lower class white people and even some black people and Hispanics, especially those who live in the area, who saw their jobs disappear, who lived in that dying area of this nation known as Michigan, that dying area of this nation known as Wisconsin, that dying area of this country known as Minnesota, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Western New York, even parts of Kentucky if you want to include it. And you could even throw West Virginia and certain portions of Virginia itself, because of all the coal, especially in Pennsylvania, and the penalties that are put on these people, these good old-fashioned coal miners who've been living a certain way their entire life, much like the people in those areas of the nation that started this entire video off with, the Midwest, who work in factories. You see, these people right here, they got to deal with crap that, quite frankly, you Eminem, you Marshall Mathers, used to deal with at one point in time. Whether it be the drama with your mother, the drama, of course, with your ex-wife, all that type of stuff. They dealt with the exact same drama that you have dealt with in your life, and you seem to have forgotten all that. I mean, fact of the matter is that Eminem just doesn't get it anymore. Now, before I close this video, I need to say this. I did a video a while back on Jimmy Kimmel, explaining how it is that Jimmy Kimmel, quite frankly, is just the establishment now. He's obviously got to tell the same jokes over and over and over again every night to the same crowd of people that watches him, obviously, to stay relevant. And it looks to me like Eminem has got to do the exact same thing. Of course, you guys could say to yourself that it probably started in 2016. I personally believe it actually started sometime after the Elton John incident, because it seemed to me like he wasn't as edgy before. That right there is what I see. Yes, he had a couple of funny music videos, you know, this type of stuff here. But then again, at the same time, the artist can still be creative within the lens of political correctness. You can still push the bounds. But he wasn't the same person anymore, and obviously the man still does not get it. So let me go ahead and end the video by saying this. The reason why it is that Donald Trump resonates so much is because when we see him get indicted multiple times, when we see the amount of crap that's thrown at him by the media, when we see that the elites cannot stand him, that the elites do in fact hate him, I hate to say this, but I have to agree with my enemy, Michael Moore. He is a human Molotov cocktail. He is the grenade that, quite frankly, we can throw up the system, regardless of how he really and truly feels, because, let's be honest, the enemy of my enemy is actually my friend. And it's something that obviously Eminem, Marshall Mathers, obviously must have forgotten about. Sad. But then again, though, at the same time, though, once you go to Hollywood, I guess you get used to bending over. Guys, John Claymore here. If you guys like this content, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I will see you guys later.